Wait, what did Kendrick Lamar say that one time? To some, this bar perfectly describes the current situation of the Colorado Buffaloes football team. As one of the most popular teams in the country, they also face heavy backlash for the actions of their players and coaches. In this video, I am going to look at Colorado's 2025 NFL draft stock and determine if they are a legitimate team or not. If you're new, subscribe to the channel as I will be doing draft content all year long. But for now, I'm Chase Keller, and welcome to the Colorado football team is not legit. Enjoy. On Mock Draft Database, the Colorado Buffaloes have 4 prospects in the current draft order, but they still lost a significant chunk of production from this last season, and that might show in this upcoming draft. They returned their starting quarterback, but a whopping negative 74 rushing yards from last year's team comeback, and a good chunk of receiving yards as well. The offensive line is revamped, but it's unsure if this revamp will actually improve the offensive line. Many people have been quick to point out Colorado's transfer portal shenanigans, and that's not particularly a good thing. Most recently, former 5-star cornerback Hormani McClain called out the Buffaloes and repeated what a lot of people like to say: "I feel like I just don't want to play for clicks. I actually want to be involved with a great leading program that's going to develop players." So that brings us to this question: what do the Buffs have to offer in the 2025 NFL Draft? Well, it begins with Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback that people struggle to analyze. We'll put it that way. He's 100% got the traits to be an NFL quarterback, but the question arises on if he is a potential starter in the league, or if the media manipulates that because his father is, Deion Sanders. So let's take a look at Sanders as a prospect and see what he brings to the table. From what I've noticed, the best trait of his to monitor is his ability to zip balls into tight gaps and place the ball at efficient rates. While his arm strength going deep isn't anything to adore, his velocity when targeting short and medium routes is able to fluctuate depending on how tight the coverage is. Along with that, he's able to maneuver through the pocket pretty well when facing pressure, and after escaping the pocket, he's a good improviser who can make plays on the run as well. The downside is pretty significant though. And no, it doesn't have much to do with the offensive line that a lot of people wanted to blame. His processing is one major negative that needs to improve, especially if the coverage is not what he was anticipating. He's late to discover open receivers. This also applies to delayed or unanticipated blitzes, as while his escapability is great, it can only get him so far. He also reminds me a lot of Kyler Murray in terms of his ability to evade pressure. While it's pretty good at its best, he will tend to take unnecessary sacks. And at the moment, I can't tell if that's a mental thing or a vision thing. So, who does Sanders have to throw to if he can't make the plays himself? Well, I have to defend Shedeur. It's not looking too hot. Specifically, the running back room is where Colorado ultimately falls short. Last week, I made a video about the Ohio State Buckeyes and mentioned Dallin Hayden still being a Buckeye, and that's because he's not officially with Colorado yet. If he ultimately does not sign with the Buffaloes, their next best option is either 3-star freshman Michael Welch or former walk-on Charlie Offerdahl. Welch was nationally ranked 777th in the country and passed up other offers from Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and more. Offerdahl has 169 career rushing yards on 39 carries and no touchdowns. So yeah, the running back room is not that good, but there is more potential on the table. The wide receiver core begins with Will Shepard, the number 210 prospect on the consensus big board. He's a good route runner with the lateral agility and spatial awareness to get open in many different coverage looks. While he could improve on concentration drops, He actually has great ball skills and can compete at catch points. Then there's Travis Hunter, who is more of a cornerback prospect right now. Plus, I already made a full-length video on Travis, so check that out if you're interested. And also starting here is Jimmy Horn, who had his best season as a Buffalo last year. After transferring in from South Florida, he's a really good athlete who possesses elite agility, and it shows in his athletic background as well. We'll see if he can compete with these other two receivers and maybe break out this season. As we venture into this tight end group, it kind of reminds me a lot of the running back room, but it's not the biggest deal. Coach Prime doesn't use his tight ends as aggressively as some teams do, and with their best tight end being Sam Hart, it's not looking too promising. I can't particularly give you a scouting report, as the former 3-star prospect has seen a total of 18 career offensive snaps with no production to show. And now we can talk about this offensive line, a scapegoat for the spotty failures of Shedeur Sanders. A lot of people are claiming that this offensive line has immensely improved, but is that really the case? In 2023, the starting left tackle on the Buffaloes was Gerard Christian Littenhan, who is an under-average starting left tackle when comparing him to the rest of the Power 5. This upcoming season, 5-star freshman phenom Jordan Seaton is projected to be Shedeur's blindside blocker. We can't really project freshmen, which makes it hard to determine whether or not this will be an improvement in the end. Of course, Seaton doesn't have a projected draft placement. The Buffalo's left guard last season was Jack Bailey, who was also an under-average starter in the Power 5. This upcoming season, senior Tyler Brown will finally get his crack with the team that he was unable to receive in 2023 because of his eligibility. While he hasn't stepped foot on the field since his 2022 season with Jackson State, him being an FCS All-American brings in potential. He might not have a player profile on Mock Draft Database, but I would still say this is an improvement. The 2023 Colorado starting center was, by PFF grade, the best starting offensive lineman on the Buffs last season. Van Wells was a pretty good pass blocker, allowing just 16 pressures and 2 sacks. He transferred to Oregon State, and as a replacement, they will bring up Hank Zielinskis from the bench and make him a starter. He was alright in his 153 offensive snaps in 2023, but if Wells had more eligibility, I don't see why this would be anything but a downgrade. Zielinskis is not eligible for the 2025 NFL Draft, and Wells is in the 300s on the database. The starting right guard for the Buffs last season was Landon Beebe, who played the most snaps at right guard last year. He was an average guard who went undrafted and unsigned after the 2024 NFL Draft. Instead, 6th-year UTEP transfer Justin Mayers was extremely good as a 5th-year player, and now he gets to prove himself as a power conference guard. With how good he played at UTEP, I'm calling this an upgrade. Mayers does not have a draft profile on Mock Draft Database. And finally, the starting right tackle last season was Savion Washington. After 1 year with Colorado, where he emerged as one of their best pass blockers, he entered the portal and is off to Syracuse. Replacing him is an incoming transfer, 5th-year senior Khalil Benson. As a transfer from Indiana, he has some solid shoes to fill, but his Power 5 experience should make Colorado comfortable in starting him. He also does not have a draft profile. Unbiased view, as it always is on this channel. This offensive line didn't improve. Now, did it lose some talent? Yes, but I also wouldn't say this is a downgrade either. If I'm a Buffs fan, I'm expecting the same old from last season. And that about wraps up the offense. Shedeur, Hunter, and Shepard. Now, let's dive into the defense. The defense has less prospects in the 2025 NFL Draft than the offense, with only 2 guys in the current draft order on Mock Draft Database. But something that is similar to the offense is that they have a lot of incoming transfers ready to start. The youngest probable starter on this defense is Travis Hunter, Samuel Okunlola, and DJ McKinney, who are all going into their third seasons of college football. No sophomores or second-year players, and a lot of guys who are going more than 4 seasons. So let's dive into that, shall we? Let's begin with the defensive line. According to our lads, this defense will run a 4-2-5 look under new defensive coordinator Robert Livingston. He worked with the Cincinnati Bengals for the last 12 seasons, including 8 straight as the team's secondary coach. He coached and helped develop the likes of Leon Hall, Pac-Man Jones, Dre Kirkpatrick, and more. When it comes to the defensive line though, here's what their current starting outlook looks like. Starting off the edges are 2 transfers, beginning with Pitt transfer Deion Hayes. He will play his 5th collegiate season with the Buffaloes after compiling 80 tackles and 13 sacks with the Panthers in his 4 years there. He seems like a pure pass rusher, but at least he can rush from anywhere on the defensive line. He does not have a profile on Mock Draft Database. And now we have another Pitt transfer playing the Buck linebacker, Samuel Okunlola. The redshirt sophomore put together an impressive 5-sack season while also acting as a pure pass rusher with minimal run defense success. His Buck play style that we don't see often is going to draw teams in. He is ranked as the 382nd best prospect in the 2025 NFL Draft, and his profile has him listed as an interior defensive lineman. So 2 Pitt transfers fill in for the 2 2024 NFL draftees that left. And we have another transfer as we begin talking about the defensive tackles. That transfer is Chidozie Nwankpa, a 5th-year senior who spent his first 4 seasons at Houston. He started at least 6 games in every season so far, and he's been consistently good all around the field. He's one of the strongest players in the country, and it shows in both his testing and his play on the field. He's ranked 672nd on the consensus board. The first returning defender in this video is defensive tackle Shane Coates, who was also a starter for the Buffs D-line last season. He enters his 5th year and his 2nd with Colorado, and he brings along versatility and great leverage over to the 2025 NFL Draft. While he might not have a profile on the database, he's someone to watch for this upcoming season. As I move on to the linebackers, this 4-2-5 scheme doesn't give me a lot to talk about, but both of them are familiar faces to this Buffs defense. These 2 guys played the most snaps at linebacker last season, with middle linebacker Levante Bentley leading the pack with 670 snaps last year. He honestly was not that great last season, as his run support and gap control led the way to a mediocre season. He also never hit as a Clemson linebacker, being a rotational guy in his 4 years there. As a result, he does not have a draft profile. On the other side is new linebacker and safety hybrid Trevor Woods, who has been with Colorado since joining the squad as a freshman in 2021. Woods is a very intriguing prospect, and he's extremely lean for a linebacker, but his coverage instincts and electric play style and run support give him extremely high upside. Just like Bentley, he does not have a draft profile. So yeah, these linebackers have not proven themselves well to this point, but the potential is there. Let's close out this defense with the secondary, where both of these draft prospects are present. And honestly, this secondary is not that special, but it is probably the best part of this defense. Beginning with the cornerbacks, we find another transfer with redshirt sophomore DJ McKinney, a transfer from Oklahoma State. He was a good rotational defensive back who actually was really good during his year with the Cowboys. He only allowed 44.9% of his targets to be caught and allowed an NFL passer rating of 91.0. He's still looking to be fully on the map, so he doesn't have a draft profile yet. On the right side, you got Travis Hunter, blah blah blah. just check out my video. And in the nickel position, there is yet another transfer in senior Preston Hodge, who came in from Liberty in the offseason. He broke up 10 passes with 2 interceptions this past year and graded as the 3rd best slot cornerback in all of FBS football, according to PFF. Hodge is pretty similar to McKinney, as he still has to prove himself, but he does have a ranking on Mock Draft Database, slotting into 570th. So now we move on to the safeties, as while I do think part of this is name recognition, Shiloh Sanders isn't that bad. Ranked 129th on the consensus big board, Sanders does tend to get beat deep way too often, but he functions as a good run defender who is most electric when not playing a deep safety role. I personally think he could be a cornerback at the next level. That 129th overall ranking marks him as the 11th best safety in this class. Lining up as the strong safety complement to Sanders is Cameron Silman Craig, a true senior who also played with Coach Prime at Jackson State. He's got some very good athleticism and fluidity in man coverage, along with solid instincts out of zone coverage. Silman Craig does not have a draft profile, but I wouldn't be shocked if he had one soon. So that just about wraps up these starters. But we're not done yet. I said at the beginning that in this video, I was going to determine if Colorado was a legitimate football team or not. So allow me to answer that question as best as I can. Are they legit? Colorado has seen a lot of guys come and go since Deion Sanders became head coach, and they are one of the most controversial teams in any sport. Mainly building your team through the transfer portal is a risky decision, and it showed in their 4-8 record last year. With them moving over to the Big 12, they will likely have easier competition since the Pac-12 looked fantastic last year. And after looking at their schedule, I have come up with a record prediction for them. Wins against North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State, Baylor, Cincinnati, and Texas Tech, and losses against Central Florida, Kansas State, Arizona, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State, which that gives them a 6-6 record. That's probably not enough to get them to the Big 12 championship, but guess what? This team is going bowling. Well, that is my dive into the 2024 Colorado football team. How good do you think they will be this season? Do you think they're just playing for clicks? Let me know in the comments section below. Wait, are you not subscribed yet? Well, do it now. I release content like this all the time and would really appreciate your support. I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and I will see you all next time.